and that our own government has been involved for decades, spraying chemicals into the air with no regard.
Toxicants on formerly known as an MSDS, now an SD.
Look up at the sky. If you see long white trails stretching across it, sometimes fading quickly, sometimes lingering for hours, you've probably heard one of two explanations. You've either been told that's just condensation, or you have been told only crazy people question it, and that second explanation should immediately make you pause. Because when a question is aggressively discouraged, mocked, ridiculed, or dismissed outright, that's usually not science. That's social conditioning. Tonight, we're not here to rant. We're not here to panic. And we're not here to tell you what to believe. We're here to do something far more reasonable and far more uncomfortable. We're going to ask the question. For decades, aircraft have left trails in the sky. These trails, commonly referred to as contrails, are a known atmospheric phenomenon. Aviation science explains them as condensation formed when hot jet exhaust meets cold air at altitude, creating ice crystals. That explanation is well documented, widely accepted, and in many cases, accurate. But observers have noticed variations. Some trails disappear within seconds. Others linger for extended periods. Some spread outward into thin cloud layers. Others appear in intersecting or grid-like patterns. Noticing these differences doesn't automatically imply wrongdoing. It implies observation. And historically, observation is how scientific inquiry begins. For years, one word has dominated this topic: chemtrails. That word doesn't just describe an idea, it functions as a social signal. Once it's used, discussion often ends. Not because evidence has been weighed, but because the label carries stigma. This is why researchers, scientists, and policymakers who engage with the topic almost never use that term. Instead, they use a different one: geoengineering. Geoengineering refers to deliberate, large-scale interventions in Earth's climate systems. This is not speculative. Geoengineering appears in peer-reviewed scientific journals, university research programs, government policy papers, international climate conferences. Proposals include solar radiation management, stratospheric aerosol injection, cloud albedo enhancement. Mainstream scientists emphasize that these proposals are experimental and controversial, carrying unknown risks and ethical concerns. Importantly, many scientists argue geoengineering should not be deployed without global consensus. So the existence of geoengineering as a concept is not disputed. The real debate centers on implementation, oversight, and transparency. One of the most cited voices in this discussion is Kristen Megan, a former U.S. Air Force bioenvironmental specialist. Her role was not flying aircraft. It involved monitoring hazardous materials, tracking them from procurement to environmental impact. According to her public statements,
Because they're the very same toxicants we were trying to engineer out of the workplace. Once I got threatened, I knew I'd found something, and it's very much happening.
she encountered substances in environmental data she believed raised red flags. She attempted to debunk the idea internally. She claims resistance increased when she pushed for clarification. She has stated that her conclusions came not from speculation, but from documentation she encountered in her professional role. It is critical to emphasize these are allegations. Government agencies dispute her conclusions, and no court has validated them. But her testimony has contributed to a broader policy discussion, one that didn't stay online. Several U.S. states have introduced or passed legislation restricting or banning certain forms of atmospheric modification. These laws vary widely. Some focus on transparency, oversight, preventing unauthorized experimentation. Supporters argue the laws are precautionary. Critics argue they are unnecessary or symbolic. But legislation rarely appears without sustained public concern. Once lawmakers are involved, a subject moves from internet theory to policy debate, and that shift matters. Public interest expanded dramatically when Tucker Carlson interviewed Dane Wigington. Wigington has studied atmospheric geoengineering for decades and founded geoengineeringwatch.org. In the interview, he argued that certain persistent trails cannot be explained solely by condensation physics. Rainwater sampling revealed particulate matter. Geoengineering patents reference similar materials. These claims are strongly disputed by atmospheric scientists and government agencies. But the interview reframed the conversation. It wasn't framed as proof. It was framed as inquiry. Weather modification is not hypothetical. There is documented history of cloud seeding for precipitation, fog dispersal for aviation, military experimentation during the Cold War. One example frequently cited is Operation Popeye during the Vietnam War, which attempted to extend monsoon seasons. That program is historical fact. Its existence led to international treaties limiting weather modification as a weapon, though not necessarily banning domestic experimentation. This history doesn't prove modern claims, but it demonstrates capability. The topic gained further visibility when Robert F. Kennedy Jr. publicly suggested unauthorized atmospheric spraying warranted investigation. His statements were polarizing. Supporters saw them as overdue skepticism. Critics viewed them as irresponsible. But once a senior public official speaks openly, the conversation shifts. Not because the claims are settled, but because the questions now exist in the public arena. Strip away labels, fear, and rhetoric. The core question becomes this: should large-scale environmental interventions, whether real, proposed, or experimental, require transparency and public consent? That question applies broadly. Climate policy, medical research, surveillance technology, environmental engineering. It is not conspiratorial. It is civic. You don't need to accept every claim. You don't need to reject established science. And you don't need to pick a side. But history teaches us something important. When questions are mocked instead of answered, trust erodes. Progress doesn't come from silence. It comes from scrutiny. Look up, ask responsibly, and expect transparency. If you value thoughtful discussion without panic or ridicule, consider subscribing. More context, less noise. Coming soon.